This is world-famous YouTuber and creator Casey Neistat. In a recent interview, one of those auto-type question style thingies, he talked about drones.
Who's got fingernails or a Sharpie? How does Casey Neistat fly drones in New York City? Okay.
But for whatever the reason, the publisher or someone decided to censor what he said.
Flying a drone in New York City is against the law. But somebody told me that, and that's how I fly drones. You'll always notice my New York City drone footage is like garbage because it's like a little baby drone.
So there's lots of reasons why that particular sentence would have been censored. And anyone that's watched Casey Neistat's videos over the years knows that he's had a few, should we call them run-ins, should we call them issues in terms of flying his drone in New York. And again, anyone who's from that area, anyone who keeps up with drone news knows that flying your drone in New York is seen as something illegal. It's a very difficult process. And we're talking New York City here, of course, which is where Casey now lives again and produces all of his content with him. The first time I watched this video, I was a little bit like, what the hell are you doing? Why are they censoring this particular line? I want to hear what Casey's got to say about drones and flying those drones in New York City. However, again, I do understand that there could be a plethora of reasons, legal reasons, social reasons, all kinds of reasons why he or Wired or somebody in that process of making this video might want to actually censor that particular sentence. Although, of course, it's interesting that they left it in and they didn't re-record it, or, you know, they didn't change it. So perhaps actually leaving the censored line in was actually Wired or Casey or somebody's way of telling us there's an interesting story laying there. So beyond the fact that I enjoyed this interview and I was watching it as very much an avid fan of Casey Neistat's work, why am I bothered? Why am I bothered about what this YouTuber is or isn't saying about drones and someone censoring it? Well, that comes to a wider topic and the reason for my video today. I'm concerned that the very topic of talking about drones, and we are talking about, relatively lightweight consumer drones here. I'm not talking about even heavy lift drones or, you know, those drones in certain parts of the world right now causing lots of trouble. I'm talking about lightweight consumer drones, someone that's either operating these as a hobby or perhaps commercially to gain a few pounds to put food on the table. And I'm concerned because I feel like there is a lot of censorship happening at the moment in and around the world of drones. And although I can understand some of it, of course, is politically driven, some of it is just people trying to be careful. It does concern me that we're starting to really sleepwalk into a situation where we don't talk openly about drone regulations anymore. We don't talk openly about what is right and what is wrong, and actually how little, how much people are actually following those rules even right now. Part of that stems from my concerns around the way that we share our drone footage, the way we share our drone photos online across social media, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else. Now, as a channel that talks a lot about drone regulation, I always try not to preach. I always try not to say to people, you must do this or you are a terrible person. I try to give the information as impartially as possible, and then let you decide what to do with that information. I'm pretty confident I have as many people following this channel, yes, Geeksvana, who actually blatantly don't follow all the rules, but they probably watch the videos, one, to debate it, because they know they can come here and do that, but also to find out the rules that they're actually breaking, perhaps. I'm sure there's a few of you out there. Keeping in mind that drones as a hobby and as a commercial enterprise worldwide has an extremely safe reputation and has an extremely safe record in terms of incidents. That might not surprise you. Anyone that's from outside drones, you may wonder, are these things dangerous? When actually one of the most commonplace drones you're going to come across out there in the public is probably a sub 250 gram camera drone like this. So therefore, when you start to think about it, the risk, the chances of something happening with these kind of small, lightweight consumer drones is extremely low. So why is it we are seeing, one, a steady and progressive march towards more and more regulation, but two, censor ourselves as a community and occasional users of drones across social media? Whenever I see posts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., it's often in the comments, within 1 or 2 comments there, where someone will be saying, what height were you at? Could you still see your drone? That type of thing. In fact, recently there was actually a post here in the UK by a police drone account over on x.com, Twitter, whatever we're calling it this week. And that post, they shared some pretty stunning photos and some cool video showing them flying around an old cathedral, an old church with foggy conditions. Quite a popular one, certainly, for people to want to go out and get. And sure enough, there was a comment pretty quickly asking whether or not you had visual line of sight. Now, I understand people are going to pick on that one in particular because it is a police drone account. So certainly people are going to be saying, are you, the people that are enforcing the drone rules, sticking to the rules? So I can understand why someone would post that. But we see it across social media, and it does impact you. In fact, that very police drone account, the next post that they put up actually had in brackets, we had VLOS, etc. So in the post itself. So it shows that they are reacting to what's happening. And that's happening across the board in all of the groups, in all of the social media that I see, to the point where I think people are no longer sharing openly the footage and photos they get, because of the so-called, I don't even like this term, but the so-called drone police, i.e. the people who are very quick to comment on things. Now, you might think that I would be pro-drone police, but I absolutely assure you there are 0 posts out there on social media of me picking people up on it. That doesn't mean that I think that people should be able to fly and post whatever they want and not be held accountable. If someone is clearly breaking the rules, I absolutely congratulate, celebrate, and thank the people who do call those people out for these kind of things. However, if someone just posts a photo of a church with a bit of fog around it, or a particular nighttime shot or something like that, or perhaps flying in an area that you're not aware that you're able to fly your drone in because last time you checked there were flight restrictions, the automatic jump to criticize that person, I feel, starts to basically almost cancel culture the entire drone hobby. And that's not good for the future of things. That's not good in terms of the positive public perception of drones and people seeing good interactions happening. We don't want there to be the automatic assumption, was that legal, when someone looks at a stunning shot. We need to celebrate. We need to be more open. It's the same situation, really, when you go across to the world of the regulator, when you go across to the larger scale side of the drone industry and the drone discussion. I, of course, as a journalist, and as you've seen on this channel, I've had many interviews with people from around the world, regulators, police, lawyers, every different type of commenter, every single type of stakeholder, I suppose you would call them, although I don't like that term. Those interviews were hard fought, and often there was just as much issue in dealing with the aftermath than there was actually dealing with the preparation, so getting people on camera, setting things up professionally, etc. Quite rightly, you would expect that, especially with a national regulator, particularly those not here in the UK perhaps, but you would expect there to be hoops to jump through and that type of thing. However, there's also a lot of feedback afterwards. We had a lot of feedback regarding comments on social media, attacking the individual that was coming on and not even necessarily discussing the actual topic of the regulation they're talking about. So again, you end up with a situation where people are not keen to even come on camera and talk about things, not because they don't want to justify the steps they're taking in drone regulation terms, but actually they're more concerned over, and I'm not talking about anything specifically or anybody specifically here, but they're more, the atmosphere that you create is more something where people are concerned about the cancel culture. They're concerned about the personal effect as well. Because as a creator, I can tell you, I've got a thick old skin, but if you do start getting comments calling you names for how you look and that type of thing, it does actually have an impact. It can actually have quite a damaging impact on that person, especially if it's someone we're interviewing who isn't used to being on camera. And overall, I think that one of the things I'm most concerned about, because again, the drone hobby changes, it meanders down the hopeful river towards things like BV loss and stable drone rules. Who knows when and if that would ever happen. But what concerns me is what happens in the wider context. So in terms of the public perception of drones, often I hear commentators telling us that we need to pull the public in. We need to have the public need to know what's going on in terms of drone regulations, etc. But actually, I feel like with a lot of the negativity around, with a lot of the infighting that happens, and not just open discussion and debate, I feel like we could actually be putting the public off. We could end up in a situation where, frankly, the public don't want our consumer drones flying over their houses or businesses and that type of thing. And again, I'm not calling out any particular niche of drones, etc., when I mention that kind of thing. But I don't think that we are, at the moment, helping ourselves to create a good public image of drones. One of the issues I have as a creator on a regular basis is actually dealing with the fallout from trying to get the messages out there, from trying to spark the debate. Having somebody on from the regulator, having somebody on from a position of power who is in that position of power and therefore either holds some kind of regulation or enforcement control over us, having those people on camera, being able to talk to those people and having to deal with the fallout afterwards of the personal attacks and that type of thing is destructive, because it removes our ability to have an open debate, an open discussion about what's actually happening in the drone industry and the drone hobby. So we've got something very new coming up on Geeksvana, which I'm really, really excited about. I'm not going to tell you everything about it today. So if you are new here, hit the subscribe button, and regular viewers do keep an eye out on your feed for the video. You'll know it when you see it, but we're going to be taking a slightly different tact very soon. We have a large public consultation coming up here in the UK, and we're going to be handling it here on the channel very, very differently to how we have handled it before, perhaps with bringing the regulator on and getting explanations from that type of thing. We're still going to break it down. We're still going to give you the key independent analysis, unbiased analysis of what's actually happening, but it's going to be a little bit different. But as I say, that is for another video. What I'm saying is, next time you post, next time we talk about drones online, think about whether or not you are contributing to the debate. Think about if you are contributing to keeping the conversation of drones alive and open. If we all go off into our little corners, if we all separate off into our own little niches and just throw stones at each other, blaming everybody else for what's going on, we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to end up in a situation where we're all censored, frankly. I hope this has made some kind of sense. I'll see you next time on Geeksvana. Sean out.